I'm glad that you're here to witness the announcement of Crusader Kings 3!
Young William, you are the heir to a great legacy. In time, armies of thousands will be yours to command. Knights will flock to your banner, and with the gold that will flow from your lands will come great influence. A good marriage could anchor your bloodline for generations to come and secure the throne. But the ways of power are hard, and there are many lessons to learn, young William. And today, you will learn the most important of all. Real strategy requires cunning.
The king is dead. Long live the king. That's right, Crusader Kings 2's development has finally wrapped up. As of right now, the last expansion, Holy Fury, will be in fact the last thing, and the game is gonna go on the standby mode, and apparently it is for free now, forever, for you to play. But it does not mean that it ends here. No, as of PDXCon 2019, a new king has been born. Crusader Kings 3, it's going to come out sometime next year, 2020. What an exciting time. So let's start at the basics. It's been in development for a very, very long time. Before Rome Imperator, which came out this year with some critical reviews and has since been completely reworked into be a little bit less EU4 and more its own original thing. But yeah, Crusader Kings 2, it's built on the same engine, which is rather interesting. What can we expect from that engine? Well, a better world, not a game that is still, you know, completely held together by what can only be described as paper clips, some glue, some chewing gum, and rubber bands, because let's be honest here, CK2 is really at the end of its, well, the ability to run a reasonable game, because now 7 years of development is a long time. And just to put things into perspective here, why I am talking about this game, 7 years ago, back in 2012, there's me next to Henrik talking about Sunset Invasion, one of the expansions that I worked on as a marketeer back then. The first expansion I worked on was Sword of Islam, but we didn't actually have any proper video for that, so that's a shame. My god, I look so young there. That's amazing. But yeah, I've played this game for a long time, and now seeing Crusader Kings 3 finally on the horizon after me having left the company for like 4 years now or something along those lines is quite amazing. So, what to expect of the game in general. Crusader Kings 2, as it originally was, is very much a dynasty, medieval dynasty simulator. You have your family, you grow your family, you paint the map, you get as many places as you possibly can, and try not to get stabbed in the back. And slowly over time, this developed in a more character-driven experience. And specifically, we had a couple of really cool systems, like the character-focused systems, that were added on and really added so much personality to the game. Now, I'm very happy to report that Crusader Kings 3 is going to take this system and go bananas with it. That's right, Crusader Kings 3 is still a grand strategy game, but a far greater focus on the RPG elements of your character. Hey, you can, in this particular case, you can go seduction, you can go intrigue, you can go rulership, etc. Of course we're going to go seduction. It's the only way to fly. And on top of that, it's apparently going to be a lot easier to play with a lot more feedback and knowing what's going on. You see this screen? I don't know what ambition is. I don't even know where to click. It's up here, this tiny button. Let's become the King of Ireland, shall we? So that's, for instance, a thing. You can more easily find out what is going on and who is going to inherit what at all times. And that right there is rather good, because Crusader Kings 2, whilst incredibly deep, is not the most well documented game, and it's rather difficult to figure out what is going on 90% of the time. So yeah. But what else in terms of the RPG elements? In the past, your character, in this case, the Earl of Dublin, who is a magnificent age of 41 years old. When he died, all he would have left would be his prestige, his domain, and whatever whatever territory would go to his sons, sometimes daughters, in certain very specific scenarios. But that was pretty much it when it came to your character. In Crusader Kings 3, you will be able to spend prestige or piety or another system that you slowly build up over time on a new hierarchy system, or more specifically, a dynastic system. Now, what does that mean? And what does that mean? It means that every single family will have a tree attached to them that they can slowly develop over the generations. And basically what that means is that, let's say you as a character have a dynastic trait that focuses on, let's say, hunting. That means that every single character in your dynasty following that will have an affinity for hunting. And this can go in any direction. You can go carousing. You can go, the party makers, they can be specialists in warfare. They can be specialists in other things, and slowly developing those skills for your dynasty over time. But there's more. There is the beauty of genetics. One of the big things in Crusader Kings 2 was that a lot of people sooner or later would go down the path of, I want to turn the entire continent of Europe into a giant fest full of little people. Yes, dwarvism is in fact a trait in the game, and that didn't stop people from trying to spread it as far as wide as possible. I'm happy to report that this is still the thing in Crusader Kings 3, and it's actually easier to do through the new genetic system. And yeah, it's rather awesome, because the new portrait system, let's be honest here, this doesn't tell me all that much, and it's going to be a lot more flexible. It will properly reflect your character, its dynasty, physical traits that are attached to those dynasties. So let's say if you have that magnificent chin that is so big that you can barely breathe, oh yes, that will be, passed down through the generations unless you actively breed it out through something else. Things like beauty, things like strong, things like being quick, all those traits are going to be passed down. And on top of that, there are apparently a whole bunch of genetic defects that can also be handed down, and you probably don't want to have in your tree, but then again, you want to keep your land in the family in some situations, so you kind of, you take some of the good parts and the bad parts of your genetic lineage in that particular cage. But yeah, the dynastic traits is huge. It's medieval genetics simulator. It's similar to, say, The Sims, except with more baby murdering. That's pretty much what I can say. And of course, there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of characters all over the map that you can interact with in some way, shape, or form. But the dynasty stuff goes even deeper. Let's say that you are the King of England and that you want to take this county from Wales over here. That's fine. You can bring your bannermen and bring them in and take territory. But you can also call up your dynasty. And that dynasty may be over here somewhere. Maybe there's like a county somewhere outside of Scotland or somewhere in northern France, and it's being controlled by members of your dynasty. Just bring them in. Bring them to the party, because if you are the head of the dynasty, you can bring those banners to bear. That's right. Isn't that awesome? This brings so many cool potentials to the table as well. You can have the most amazing Song of Fire and Ice mod the world has ever seen with this, because let's be honest, that particular series is all about the characters and not so much about, painting the map in your own color, even though the Seven Kingdoms are kind of like that, which is kind of cool. Let's talk about the map. The map itself, it's got elements of EU4, it's got elements of Hearts of Iron, and it's expanded. So there's a whole bunch of stuff over here, except China is not filled in. They don't want to tackle China just yet. It's not a feudal society after all. It's its own special system. It's the imperial system. Doesn't really reflect medieval Europe at all, and they're going to tackle that at some later point. The China expansion for CK2 was not out by the time, or at least in development by the time CK3 was in development, and yeah, they kind of have to base stuff on what they have, and so yeah, China's not going to be in there at this point. There's a big gray blob over there on the map, at least on the version I see. It was very much early in development, so yeah, that's going to come at some later date. But yeah, what can you expect from the game in terms of what is coming from CK2? So one of the big worries that I have had in the past when it comes to the expansion model of Paradox is The potential of sequels. Now, Crusader Kings has been in development for 7 long years, and that is a lot of time to build expansions. I look at this list over here. I don't have every expansion in the game because, you know, I haven't kept up since Sons of Abraham. But there are so many of these. There's literally hundreds of euros worth of expansions. Are they going to add that to CK3? All that stuff, or are they going to nickel and dime you down the line, saying, "Oh yeah, now we're going to add cults." So, as an example, I'm happy to report that most of Crusader Kings survived into Crusader Kings 3 to a certain degree. Now, especially the systems like the we talked about this earlier on. The focus system is very much iterated upon and has a far more RPG style. It's not nearly as random. There's trees attached to it that you slowly unlock over time as you develop, etc. And it's really cool to see that. But also things like the Old Gods is there. A whole bunch of stuff. It's probably easier to talk about the stuff that is not in Crusader Kings 3, and that is the following. I have a little list of stuff here that I was told is not going to be in there. So we're not going to have nomads. I think that is nobody's going to miss that. The nomad system in CK2 is not all that great. They want to iterate on that. It's a completely different system. Again, the engine is very, very old at this point, and they did not have the flexibility to actually properly depict the nomads, which is, you know, unfortunate, but it just means that they have more flexibility in the future to deal with. Epidemics from Reaper's Due is not going to be in Crusader Kings 3 at the get-go. You cannot have any great plagues in your Byzantine Empire. You cannot die from the cancer or cut your penis off and then regrow it at a later date and all of a sudden you're immortal. That's a whole different subject. Zaniness. We'll talk about that shortly. Yeah, that's not going to be in there. Theocracies, not going to be in the base game. I don't think it even was ever in CK2 to begin with. Somebody in the comments can probably correct me on that one. And one in particular I thought was rather strange is not going to be in the base game. And that is the Merchant Republics. So no Venice, no Genoa, no Capua. What is it here? Amalfi? Yeah. So all that stuff is not going to be in the CK3 base game. Probably because they were not happy with how those systems worked and they want to completely reiterate them sometime in the future. But in all honesty, that's fine by me. It means that there is still an entire world out there. The entire map is there. You can play as Islam. Sort of Islam is there. You know, the Byzantine Empire, the whole being born in the purple stuff, the Indian stuff is in there. I am really surprised, actually, that they decided to tackle all that stuff. As I mentioned, Old Gods is in there. That is really, really, really cool. So yeah, those are the things that you can expect not to be there. On top of that, what can you also not expect to be in Crusader Kings 3 comparatively to CK2? And that is a lot of the zaniness of CK2. Now, when the game first started development, or at least when I worked at the company, let's put it that way, there was quite a lot of focus on turning it into a medieval map painter with a focus on dynasties in your family. Now, later on, it became a lot more RPG focused, a lot more events, things that could happen to your character. And whilst that RPG system is in CK3, a lot of the more outlying zaniness is not there, so there is no Antichrist. You cannot become immortal. You do not have invasions from across the sea coming in from South America. There's no sunset invasion in the game. Stuff like that, and of course, not to mention China and all that stuff. So that all the weird stuff is not going to be there, so that is a bit unfortunate. So something to pop into the game down the line, and they want to iterate probably on that sort of thing. So marrying your horse, probably not going to be in the base game. Secret Bears, probably also not going to be in there at the start. But there's more than enough space to build on, because that fun side of the game, something to look forward to, is still there in the back of the heads of the devs, so I wouldn't be surprised if sooner or later it's gonna pop up. But yeah, Dynasty Legacies, as I mentioned, an extension of that, cadets. What is a cadet? A cadet is a bastard that you sire, then legitimizes and starts his own house under your house, which is a cadet branch. So that is there, which is rather cool. And let's take a look here. Traits, modifiers, still going to be the same, and all of that stuff. And finally, yes, religions. Religions are really, really, really extreme in Crusader Kings 3. And what do I mean by extreme? It means they are completely and totally editable. As in, you can have your religion. If you decide, hey, this particular part of the Bible does not really apply to me, therefore I'm going to take another part. Boom, you got yourself a heresy. Totally possible. You can do the craziest stuff. You want to become a cannibal? Totally possible. You want to have sky burials? Oh yeah, you can do that. That's where the real zaniness comes out. Of course, sooner or later, somebody's going to Days Vault you and try to invade your country, especially if you're England, by the way. Then, yeah, that's the thing. On top of that, in terms of characters, you can be blackmailed. If you have a secret, and somebody can find out that secret, let's say that you've murdered a child in the crib and nobody found out, and somebody through sort of, you know, scoping out the field, trying to find your stuff, you know, going through your skeletons in the closets, can find out what this is and then blackmail you. Now, you could just banish them to another territory, but they could share this information with somebody else, so it's probably a better idea just to murder them. So there's a lot of quote-unquote hooks there when it comes to that sort of thing. Let's take a look. Yeah, so when it comes to Crusader Kings 3, there's quite a lot of really cool stuff on the horizon and will come out sometime in 2020. As a reminder for those people out there that have never played Crusader Kings 2, it's probably one of the best games ever made, even though it's incredibly riggedy in terms of its engine design, etc. Go download it. It's free to play on Steam. Just grab it. Just do yourself a favor and dive right into the amazingness of this game. Like, you've been staring at this map screen this entire time. You're probably looking at myself, what the hell is a Kievan Rus? Or what is a Cumania? What is a Perm? Those names don't matter. It's the events and the journey of your character. That's what matters. Kind of like The Sims, trying to go to work, but you build a giant hedge maze around the house, so it takes them 8 hours to walk the car and drive to work, and then 8 hours to walk back. And when they arrive, it's time to go to work, etc. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, and as 2012 me with the big old eyes looking forward for new stuff in Crusader Kings would think, this is awesome. We're looking forward to this. The extreme depth and RPG elements available that are going to be in this game are going to be so much fun. And I'm really, really excited for it. Hope you are as well, because we're going to be doing more Crusader Kings 3 stuff on the channel as development continues. I was originally going to do this with Rome Imperator, but then all of that stuff dropped off, which is unfortunate. But yeah, let's wrap it up here. Give this guy... if you're interested, just give it a subscribe or a like or whatever. Your comments below. If you're really upset that... Merchant Republics are no longer there, or that you were really set on the way nomads worked, just, yeah, it's comments below. You can talk down there. Anyway, let's wrap it up here. Crusader Kings 3 coming out to you sometime in the near future. Looking forward to it. Until next time.